Got it.
Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. We'll give everybody a moment to come on in. So give it a couple of minutes. Get yourself nice and comfy. Please mute if you're not talking, unmute to ask any questions, and please feel free to ask questions as we go. Feel free to interrupt the hell out of Joseph. He loves it.
Yeah, definitely do that.
So just give it a couple of minutes. I've still got people coming in left, right, and center, and we'll get stuck in.
Lovely to see those smiling faces. Hello, everyone. Long time no see for some of you.
Thank you. Keep coming in and out, okay?
Hey, you don't need to record it, buddy. We're recording it for you. You're going to get our mate.
Okay, so welcome everybody to our official launch of our Integral Leadership professional coaching pathway, which has been about 5 years in the making. And we've created it from everything that we have transcended and included from the coach trainings that we've been involved in, from what is really cutting edge in the coaching arena today, and some new critical research, which has added a lot of value to coaching. We'll talk more about that as we go. We're going to cover off firstly what is, we'll call it IPCP, Integral Leadership Professional Coaching Pathway. What is IPCP? Why IPCP? What are the problems with the industry, with the field of with coaching training organizations, and with coaches that this program is solving? What can it do for you? The methodology and the artificial intelligence, the inclusion of the artificial intelligence product called the Identity Compass. Who's it for? What is it going to cost you? And then we're going to go through what are the 4 different modules that comprise the base program and what's included in them. The Scott here, Joseph, you can see him, is going to do a live coaching demonstration, which I will unpack using the methodology. And so one of you, if you would like some coaching, have an actual problem that you'd like to coach to, Joseph will coach you using the methodology, and I'll unpack what we did. We'll take questions and answers, and we're done. So what is Integral Leadership Professional Coaching Pathway? It's a pathway which integrates AI technology to take the guesswork out of coaching. It does a number of things, but 2 things it does. When a client identifies what they want, the AI technology identifies what they need. It also identifies at what stage are they creating the problem? What stage of awareness are they creating the problem that they're trying to solve? And therefore, what stage do they need to shift into? And indeed, how do they make that stage structure shift? What levers do they need to pull in order to get the stage structure, in order to solve their problems? So we're taking the guesswork out of coaching. And so we're taking the subjectivity out of coaching itself. It's no longer a subjective field. We're making it an objective field. Now, this is sorely missed because most coaching, and Joseph and I would probably say 99.9% of coaching going on at the moment is the coach doing subjective interpretation of what the client's going through. So it's guesswork. We're taking the guesswork out of it.
Jay, how is that? How does the AI do that?
Well, that's what we'll talk through, Anita.
Okay.
Is how Identity Compass does that. So why IPCP? So the coaching, the problem with the industry itself is that it is a completely unregulated industry. And so it is a made up industry, which means the models that coaching companies use, including the models we've used in the past with meta coaching, are made up. Very, very, very few of those models, some of them have, but very few of those models have been ratified and have been peer reviewed in a scientifically validated way. So most organizations training coaching are simply using guesswork based on what they think works and then training you to do the same. In terms of coaches, the problems that we have is we have the coach interpreting what's going on for the client through their stage of development. And most coaches do not know at what stage they're making meaning. That means that you as a coach could be coaching someone at a later stage of development than you are, and actually the coaching, even the questions and the nature of the questions that you're asking, could be actually holding the client back rather than facilitating their movement to their next stage. So what can IPC do for you? It can help you understand how awareness works. It can help you then bring into awareness, it can help you bring into awareness your structures and your shit so you can get it out the way and see the client shit, but then have a tool to validate and reference that actually points not only to where the problem lies, but what actually needs to shift in order for that problem to no longer exist for the client, to enable them to solve that problem. Where are the thinking patterns, we call them cognitive intentions, that the client is going to need to shift in order to get their outcome really, really clearly. The tool that we've got will simply show you where it is that you need to work with the client in order for their stage structure to grow, for their awareness quotient to actually grow and expand. Joseph, do you want to talk a little about the methodology in the AI, particularly the Identity Compass?
A little bit, I think, to cover what you've shared. If you look in the chat, there's a screenshot that's just been taken. So have a quick open of that. It's really the new working coaching definition for the coaching room. If you can't define something, you don't know what it is. And so one of the things that's really missing in the industry of coaching and training is having really clear definitions on what things are that's pragmatic and succinct and grounded. And so just put your hand up. You can see the coaching definition, right? It's the last couple of sentences on the screenshot. You've got that, right? So let's just go there. Having empirically and scientifically measured and assessed the coaching client, the coach then listens, questions, and supports the client in accessing the resources within and available on the outside to the client to an agreed outcome. And here's the key point, that is integrating the client's subjective experience. Here's what I want to coach to. Yeah, so we're all doing that. We've been doing that for years, but then is also directed and informed by the Identity Compass software, which brings an objective need developmentally available to the coach for the client. And so the key point here, the identity compass offers up several leverages for change. It shows weaknesses and it shows strengths in the cognitive intentions. And by doing that, the person might want to be able to get on better with their boss. But the identity compass might say, actually, their trust threshold, their attentional field for trust is so very high, nobody invests in the relationship with the person because they go around as if everybody's their best friend. And so the relationship aspect of the person's life isn't working, not because they're not nice, but because they're actually too high on trust in relationships right at the beginning. Now, the system will tell us that. The client will go, I want to be able to have a more deep and meaningful relationship with my boss. And we know that's what they want, but we know reducing their I'm open and available and deeply trusting of you in our relationship from the first 1 minute isn't working for people. So you've got the subjective, I want a deeper relationship, and the objective area, the identity compass is going, hey, this area is massively imbalanced. And so what the identity compass does is it shows imbalances in where the person is overprivileging a particular perspective and underprivileging other perspectives. And so there aren't many coaching systems at the moment that actually give an objective view of the client that then works with their subjective view, which then moves them developmentally in terms of their thinking quotient, in terms of their stage of development, and in terms of their capacity for awareness. So that's quite cool and exciting to have something that we can get our hands on as a coach and know that when you're coaching with your client, that you've got the whole of the quadrants. For those of you that know the quadrants, we've got what they want in the upper left, but we've also got what they need in the upper right and the lower right.
When we're talking upper left, lower left, we're talking about the quadrants and we're talking about perspectives. So we're going to train you in being able to listen for, detect, identify, and then quality check your subjectivity with an objective tool of the cognitive intentions of the client. And so there's a simple model that we use. It's called awareness, intention. Yeah. So what are you aware of? Are you aware of your intentions? So if you're not aware of your intentions, there's always an intention running, but are you aware of it? Is it inside of your awareness, your cognitive awareness? And can you see what your actual intention is so that you can take responsibility for it? Yeah, that changes the way you respond in the world. Yeah, so it's intention, awareness, choice, response. So your intentions are either conscious or unconscious. If they're unconscious, then they're prior intentions that are running you. They are intentions like beliefs, values, identity structures, so on and so forth. These cognitive intentions are running in the background. We're going to bring them into the foreground and go, now you can see what your intention is. Do you still intend it? Therefore, bringing awareness to your intentions, giving up more choices so that you can respond differently in the world. So we're going to train you in this model of being able to understand, is the client actually aware that they have a choice, or are they holistically unaware of any other choice other than their reaction, which is habituated? The more reactive you are, the earlier stage of development that you are. So Dr. Darren Stevens, that Joseph found through research over in the UK, has done his PhD on the identity compass, and he's linked it to Ken Wilber and all of the developmental psychologists' work. And he's found the link, and it's empirically ratified and so scientifically validated. He's found the link between cognitive intentions and the amount of flexibility that you have in that cognitive intention. Yeah, in NLP, we call them meta programs, but these are different. These cognitive intentions are different from meta programs, but they act in the same way. those cognitive intentions, where you have flexibility, the more flexibility you have in your cognitive intentions, the less driver intentions you have, the later the stage of development. The more rigid your cognitive intentions, if you're extremely detailed, your worst case scenario, and your external, the earlier stage of development you're going to be. And so there is a direct link between how much flex you have in your cognitive intentions and your stage structure. What the identity compass does is show us directly which cognitive intentions need to be adjusted for your stage structure to grow. So there's a spreadsheet that Dr. Stevens has designed that can show us if we shift this cognitive intention and we get a 20% more flexibility in this cognitive intention, here's how much your stage structure is going to grow. So some cognitive intentions, if they were big drivers and you were to shift them, could actually lead to half a stage of development. Half a stage. So if development is the intention of developmental coaching, this is the tool to enable that development to accelerate.
But just to ground that, because whether it sounds like it or not, this whole system's complexity is actually to make coaching profoundly simple for you. Not complex. We don't want to bamboozle the coach. We don't want the clients bamboozled. This whole system's complexity so that we can actually give a rapidly accelerated coaching service that you can provide for your client simply and easily. And so for everything that Jay said, that's true. It's a bit like the quadrants. That's true as you dive into it, but on the surface, it's a very simple process of bringing a piece of software objectively and your subjective experience as a coach to the outcome of your client. And that's really it. So when we do the coaching demo, we might do several coaching demos because they're pretty quick. The thing that we won't have is your identity compass profile to give us the background information, but we can still show you the awareness, the intention, the responses, the choices and the responses. When we're coaching it, we've worked out we run backwards. So we're going to start in the grounded space of behaviors. So given the time frame, why don't we get into just doing a quick coaching session, just so as you can see what's going on. So who's working on something in their life, behaviorally or otherwise? I would like to have a quick 5-minute conversation around this type of technology.
While you're thinking about that, that you're going to put your hand up, while you're thinking around that, when we're done with that, we'll go through the curriculum, an overview of the curriculum in all 4 modules. So let's ask a quick question. Who'd like to see a demonstration? Anybody like to see a demonstration? Raise your hand so we can see you. Great. Who'd like to be the object of that demonstration? Because we need one of you to be the demonstratee in order to have a demonstration. And we like it to be real.
Anita's like, I've heard that too many times to be sucked in again. So what we're looking for is if you're working on something for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be working, you don't have the confidence around it, there's some kind of something's holding you back. Just doesn't have to be life-changing, just something simple that you're working on.
Not bothering yourself with what people do or how they do it. What's something you'd like to be free of even?
A challenge, perhaps.
Problem we've got is half this audience is an inquiry, so they got absolutely nothing to offer. The rest of you have been doing NLP 101 for 9 years.
What we know is that people have their stuff. Everybody has their stuff. What's some of the stuff that you need to work on? If you're going to become a coach, you're going to need to look your stuff in the eye. Here's an opportunity. If you're going to become a successful coach, you got to get your stuff out the way.
Small stuff or big stuff?
Okay, Josie, what you got?
Inertia to action, inertia into action, and the delay that I have in idea, concept, and then actually jumping into doing.
Good. Out of all of the options that we've got, Josie, we'll choose you. I think you're the favorite. Okay, so let's just pin Josie up and let's just run through these 4 pillars of this coaching system. Just see what happens. So can you pin Josie up, Jay?
I'm outside in my little bird nest.
Okay, you keep tweeting.
I will.
There she is. Good, Josie. So we're going to have a quick coaching conversation around this new technology, these different coaching peers. I'm going to be slightly directive, so be okay with that. That's just so as we can get through this session. What is it that's happening or not happening for you in the real world? In the world.
So in a number of different areas, this occurs of my life, but
Okay.
I'm going to specifically talk about in my coaching company and actively getting known, like I guess advertising myself, going on to Instagram, maintaining a presence in order to attract clients.
Okay. So given all of that, what is or isn't happening?
I'm not actually doing the posting.
Okay, so you're not, so we're working on something that you're not doing, but you would like to.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just be clear. So there's stuff around social media and promoting your coaching business that you want to do, but
Yes.
you're not doing it.
Correct.
Okay, so just notice that for a moment. We're just going to go with a really profound question. What stops you?
Myself.
Okay. Yourself, did you say? Okay,
Myself, yeah.
Is it yourself? Is it yourself? Not someone else's self stopping you, it's yourself.
Yes.
Okay, start then.
So I do, and then I lapse back into not starting again.
Okay, so you are doing it.
I am doing it inconsistently.
Okay, so you'd like to do it consistently, or
Yes.
you'd like to keep doing it inconsistently?
I'd like to do it consistently.
Okay, so
and then monitor to see if it actually has effect.
of course, yeah, of course. So what we're looking at is you being more consistent
Yes.
with your marketing efforts.
Yes.
Okay, so and you're not doing that consistently.
Correct.
Okay, but you are doing it inconsistently.
Yes.
Okay, can you, as you notice that, what choices are available to you? Do you have the choice to do it consistently?
Yes.
You do have the choice to do it consistently.
Yes.
Okay, as you try on doing it consistently right now, just try on doing consistently right now. In your mind, just try on, you're consistently doing the marketing for your coaching business.
Yes.
As you try that on as a choice.
Yeah, it
Okay.
feels good.
Okay, just notice that and just let that feeling of feels good. Okay, now stay with me. What are you aware of? What are you aware of when you notice that when you plan and think about doing that marketing consistently, it feels good? What are you aware of around that? Let's just step back in your mind. What are you aware of when you notice you're doing it inconsistently? How do you feel when you're doing it inconsistently?
Not great.
Okay. But how do you feel when you're
How
doing
do
it
I feel?
inconsistently? You feel good when you're doing it in your mind?
So if I'm doing it consistently, I feel good. And you're
Good.
asking me the question about if
When
I'm
you're
not
doing it inconsistently, Josie,
inconsistently.
yeah.
I feel like I'm being the word shy came up, or it feels like I'm not shining, and that does not, like I'm not, I'm trying to get back to the emotion once I've worked out what it is. So it's like I'm not making the most of this life.
Right, stop there. Stay with that. Feel that. You are not making the most of this life when you are marketing inconsistently.
Yep.
What comes to your awareness when you see that? What are you aware of? You're not making the most of this life. And yet when you are and you're marketing consistently, you're making the most of this life and it feels good.
Feels like that's not, I didn't start this life with that.
Tension, right?
That was like not the bargain that I made
Right.
at the beginning.
What is the bargain?
The bargain was that.
What is it?
I would.
You will.
Shine.
What is the bargain?
I would.
Come on.
I would turn up truly as me.
Right. So that's your intention for your life, for you to shine, to turn up truly as you.
Yeah.
To let the world know about you.
Yeah.
That's your intention. What's your intention in not showing up consistently and not marketing consistently? What's your intention there?
To protect.
Protect what?
Protect from hurting was the first thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So you have an intention to protect you from being hurt by being inconsistent.
I don't feel like the inconsistency is.
Yeah.
Sorry, that sound threw me off then. Can you say that again? It didn't.
Oh, yeah. So your intention is to show up in your life. That's the bargain, right?
Yep.
To show up, to be real, to be true.
Yep.
And your marketing consistency is an expression of that.
Yes.
But you're marketing and promoting yourself inconsistently, and you're aware of both of those now.
Yes.
What's your intention around the inconsistent marketing? You said self-protection.
Yes.
What are you protecting?
Oh, sorry, my head jumped to Enneagram. It's that
protecting?
I might be seen. Stop going into my head. I might be seen as a fraud.
Okay. Okay. What happens for you when you're aware of hearing that? As you're aware of, you might be seen as a fraud.
Honestly, it goes to the achiever is where my head then went, and curiosity around that. But if I might be seen as a fraud, I'm external referencing. I'm like looking from other perspectives. I'm biasing other perspectives.
Okay. Let's just check in. Your highest intention is a concern that you might be seen as a fraud. Let's connect that now. Do you think marketing inconsistently about you or consistently about you might seem more fraudulent?
Oh, actually, I feel like consistently could feel more fraudulent, because it's like life's not always amazing. And so to come up with this rosy sort of, picture all the time, that there is an aspect of,
Now, as you step back in your awareness, what are you now aware of that you could do differently based on what you now know?
That the marketing that I put out, I'd want to be connected to it.
Correct. And true to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might not be all smiles and roses and sparkles and love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Let that in, that awareness. What is your new intention right now? Come on.
To turn up.
Right.
On
and how are you going to
social
market?
as me.
Yeah. What choices do you have now with your marketing?
Endless.
Good.
It's like,
Good.
yeah. So the whole one of the things is what topic, you know,
Good.
like
That's all
there's
fine. That stuff
it's
you
like,
can work
well,
through.
whatever's
Will you
happening.
do it consistently if it's true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Feel that, notice that, ground that. Do you have more choice?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So there are quite a few cognitive intentions there that Joseph and I can hear running consistently for Josie. That leads us to probe in different areas that you know, we whilst the identity compass is useful to point that out, Joseph and I can also hear them running. And so there are probably 5 core cognitive intentions that Josie is running that has her stuck. They are, she runs an options meta program and not a procedures meta program. And for that, she needs a procedure. She runs high external in terms of reference. She's referencing authority outside of herself, not inside of herself. She's thinking in terms of short term rather than long term. And she's moving away from, which is the really big one, away from motivated, away from what she doesn't want to be seen as a fraud, which is probably connected to a core belief structure for Josie, which shows up when she thinks about showing up in a consistent way, but not in an authentic, true to herself way. She moves away from that, but she wasn't doing it consciously. She was doing it unconsciously. She was doing it outside of her awareness. Did you see Josie's face when Joseph went, yes, there, just, did you hear that? It was like, oh my God, there was a realization there. Josie, what was the realization like that I noticed on the outside when you pulled back, your eyes went as big as saucers and you went, ha, what was the realization?
So that the realization was a connection back to like almost beginning self. That's, if that's the one you're talking about, when I realized I'm not turning up the way the bargain I
Right.
made, that one.
And that's driving the inconsistency.
That's, yeah. So that was very much about just true essence. It felt like
Right.
connection to that.
So in the longer term, not only this problem plays out for you, Josie, but when like problems play out for you, there are 5 core cognitive intentions that I can hear. The identity compass would probably pull up more, where they aren't context dependent, certainly not in this context. They're more habituated. Yeah. And so they're running habitually outside your awareness, stopping you from seeing what is going to enable you to bring into your awareness that's going to give you more choice and allow you a different response in the world.
So then just from here, Josie, for you along in that space was the noticing of you know, other reference, where's she gone? Other referenced in your marketing, right? Sparkly life, lots of love, bullshit, right? And then noticing your self-referencedness, if you're just going to share what's true, not what's expected, right? So that shift from referencing outside of you, everybody else seems to be doing really well doing this, to actually an authentic expression in your marketing as a self-referent point, right, of yourself.
Yep.
Can you get a sense that you can market consistently from being self-referenced in the truth of your marketing and your offer?
Yes.
For everybody else, did you notice how how really if you're able to track the context, how very simple the steps are. We're starting out here with what is and isn't happening, and we're just tracking back through choices. We're tracking back through awareness. We're tracking back through intentions, and then just tracking those different intentions back through to the grounded point of the actions and reactions again. Very, very simple steps. Nothing else needed. The only thing that was mentioned, and David pointed to it, we aren't looking at the profile, which would have showed us the cognitive intentions that we're able to pick up. So if you don't have the ears as a coach yet for hearing all of those meta programs in the motion with your client, that's okay, because it's on your desktop or it's in your hand in advance of the coaching session. How cool is that?
That's what takes the guesswork out, right? For coaches.
Right.
And so we saw what we uncovered in that coaching session in the intention awareness choice response model was that Josie had a prior intention for self-protection. That was a prior intention that was running outside of her awareness, that had, when she thought of doing something consistently, would fire outside of her awareness and have her move away from what she didn't want, which is being seen external by others as inauthentic, and by herself as inauthentic. So that shuts the choices down, which shuts the responses down. And now there's only one choice, that prior intention of self-protection. Once, Josie, you're able to bring in, there's my prior intention. What do I actually intend? Well, I actually intend to be authentic and express what's really true for me. Now you're bringing that into your awareness and holding it from an aware perspective, opens up choices, opens up different responses.
And then the alignment with reality for Josie is she'll get the client that needs her. She'll get the client that she can speak directly into, not just any old client because they bought into some lovely, flashy, sparkly Instagram. She'll actually get people connecting with her that actually can hear her message, can hear her essence, can hear her expression.
And are moved by it.
That'll be a lot less people than would pretend to be interested in the sparkles and the love hearts. But it would be the right people, and you get that synergy of her intention and her actions in the world as a coach.
Many coaches here often see the demonstrations and think, how do I hear all of that? How do I catch all of those cognitive intentions in one, in a 10-minute demonstration? Any coaches do that? That's what's fabulous about the Identity Compass, because you've got this report here in front of you to take out that guesswork.
And the report is based on the client's inputs. So it's not coming from the software saying this is true. It's the client saying this is true for them based on the way they answered the questions. It's actually them saying, this is how I think. That's the beauty of it. It's not like it's creating something that doesn't already exist. It's just showing how the client's thinking, because the client answers the questions based on their cognitive intentions. They're sharing their cognitive intentions into the artificial intelligence software as they're going, which measures how much flex they have as it asks questions that cross over each other. It asks questions in multiple contexts and scenarios. Sometimes it asks the question in 3 different ways. And then what it does is it pulls all that together and then produces metadata from that data that links to some habits. And then it produces metadata on its metadata, and then shows you, based on the metadata and the metadata, your stage structure.
Just to simplify that, and just to make that nice and easy, how many clients have you coached and they've come in, they've had a great experience with you, they've worked on an area of their life, you may have helped facilitate some really good transformational changes for the content of their life for them, and they're really pleased with what they've got with you as a coach, but you have not touched anywhere near what's going on for them at an individual level in terms of them being in the world. You're playing with a narrative, right? We're not changing the operating system. this identity compass and this coach training pathway is going to train you, with you first, and then with your clients and with each other, to actually make changes at the operating software level, not at the desktop level of the niceties that the client thinks they want.
So I had an experience with a client where the identity compass, because what's happening is a bit like the Enneagram, we can be answering from our blind spots. So I had an incident with a client where through their language, I was hearing massive distrust, yet looking at their identity compass, they were massively on the trust side. And so what I gauged from that was that there was such a massive overcompensation in wanting to believe that they trusted themselves because it wasn't safe to then be distrusting in self. So that was a really key part of it, just looking at it and going, how is it showing that? But yet their language is just distrust city. It was just really.
Right. Yeah. And so on the identity compass, the pairing with that trustness, Anita, is actually skeptic.
Yeah.
And the skeptic, if the skeptic's really high or really low, that actually informs how the trust is or isn't working. And so the thing is, with the profile and the identity compass, it's not just the thing that seems to be the problem, it's how are these relational cognitive intentions actually conforming and confirming this is really the leverage point of change for the client.
Because they're blind to what they can't see.
They can't see it. They can't see it. If they could see it, we wouldn't need software.
Yeah. So the question you mentioned earlier, Jay mentioned that they weren't the same as the meta programs. So
right.
Are some of them the same? How are they not the
There's
same?
similarities. There are some different ones, and they look at different things, but they kind of are quite similar. Okay. But there is difference.
Okay.
But what it does differently when it says, you know, your trust is at 90% out of 100, which is like massively trustful. It can also say your skeptic is at 85%, which is the other end of the meta program or the cognitive intention. That's where it becomes validatingly different. Because if you've got 95% trustfulness and 85% skeptic, that client's got the full capacity to flip-flop between both of those simultaneously, full range of flexibility. They don't have trust or skeptic issues. And so what this system is going to offer you as coaches in training through the different modules, and then we'll get into those modules a little bit, is going to offer you an immense level of balance in terms of your own way of making meaning in the world, your own way of perceiving in the world. And it's going to show you immediately where you're balanced and imbalanced. And you're imbalanced means you have a lack of flexibility, which means you don't actually have the capacity to see the world differently. That's where the ceilings are. That's where the edge of your developmental stage is getting stuck. And so the training from the first module all the way through to the last module is going to be like front and center, understanding, using, and exploring your personal identity compass profile in the context of you being a coach. Madeline, do you want to get into maybe talking about the couple of the first few modules in terms of what's in there?
So module 1A it's about the foundations of a coach training program. It sets participants up with a solid skills of conversational coaching, skills of supporting on behalf of rapport, skills of listening for what's being said, listening for what's not being said, and listening for what's being said, like communicated through physiology, through those thinking styles, those cognitive intentions that we're talking about. Listening for how is the client perceiving reality. It's going to speak to 1A is the precision model of language, being able to point to that and move a client out of their map of reality by moving them into reality by using clean language, bringing them out of deleting, distorting and generalizing. Basic skills of moving a client of where are they now and where do they want to go, and how are we going to facilitate that through questioning. So they're the foundations which really build for the program of 1B and 1C. 1B takes us into really looking at the identity compass, being able to navigate that with our clients, being able to speak to that. Jay's going to speak to that more fully. But 1A is about those foundations, getting the foundations right so you can take the next levels and the next modules of this training and embody them. Do you want to speak to 1B, Jay?
1B is really going deeply into cognitive intentions and the cognitive intentions as they align with the identity compass. And doing that inside of, we bring into 1B the intention, awareness, choice, response model itself of what we call coaching 2.0, which is to coach at a different level, to coach to the stage structure shifts that enable the thinking that will enable the client to have more choice and they have different responses. We'll cover all 50 intentions. There are 4 kind of key elements. There's perception intent, cognitive intentions. There's motivation factor cognitive intentions, motivation processing cognitive intentions, and information processing cognitive intentions. We then look at the identity compass and how it pulls out the metadata, and how to read and interpret that metadata, and then how it pulls out the metadata to read and interpret the metadata, not only for individuals, but teams as well. So if you're coaching an entire executive team, the identity compass can be used to scan an individual, and it can be used to scan the collective. That is extremely useful if you're doing group and team coaching with a team of 7, 15 people. It's going to give you massive insights to the imbalances in the group as well. It'll then allow you to listen with cognitive intentions, coach to cognitive intentions, and coach to expand flexibility in cognitive intentions, is what module 1B is all about. 1C, Mads?
So 1C takes all of 1A, and Maureen mentioned in the chat that can you all hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yep. Good. So 1C takes all of 1A and 1B and goes deeper into the skills of coaching. This is a coach training program. So we are looking at framing. What are the frames you hold as a coach? What's getting in the way of you as a coach? Any coaches here running any unresourceful frames about themselves as a coach? So we look at those frames. We look at how do we frame coaching conversations? What are the frames we set with our clients? We look at precision questioning, the dance of powerful questions. How are we testing? How are we checking with our clients? How are we getting clarity? How are we combining those questions with meta questions? And so we are looking at precision questioning. We are looking at how do we breathe life into a coaching conversation? How do we expand and how do we ground our questions and our coaching conversations? We look at a matrix model, understanding how individuals create their own matrices around self, around the world, around their intention, around their meaning, around time, around others, around their sense of power. We look at those matrices and we start to listen for how those matrices present in coaching topics. When we can hear what matrix a client is operating from, we can coach straight to that.
We also break down the core skills that you'll learn in 1A here, and we break them down into sub-skills. So we're really getting into the intricacies that are the differences that make the difference in the skills of coaching by looking at what comprises these skills and what is it that you need to develop, and then giving you the practice to develop those sub-skills to support the skill to enable you to do what you saw Joseph just do with ease. We're then going to finish off 1C with the actual business of coaching and look at coaching as a business. How do you set yourself up for success in the business of creating a coach? And so how do you go past the kind of 60 to 70% of coaches who fail in the first couple of years and go back to either a part-time or full-time job? How do you make a success out of building a coaching of business, the business of coaching? Before we move into level 2, which only has one module, which is called level 2, which is really starting to bring in the integral lenses and of quadrants, the 4 first, second, third, fourth person perspective, the internal and the external, the individual and the collective. So it's the internal and the external of the individual and collective. We're looking at that through multiple lenses. We're looking at it through your preferences, your biases. We're using the quadrants to listen. We're using the quadrants to be able to hear what perspective is the client speaking from, to be able to support the client, to be able to look at and as the client, even more importantly, simultaneously, to be able to look at, to be able to look as and take the client's view here, and to master all of that inside of the intake session itself, to master that intake session so that you nail the client's topic for their coaching program.
In the short term, the client is going to be each other on the program. So you're going to be using your Identity Compass profile and your partner's Identity Compass profile to do the work.
Right. And so that work is waking up, growing up, cleaning up so that you can start showing up as a professional coach. It's you doing the work on you first. The second element of, and this is the simplicity of this program, the second element of level 2 is introducing the stages of awareness, the awareness quotient model that comes from Dr. Darren Stevens' work, and seeing how that fits with particularly Keegan's work and Ken Wilber's integral theory, and seeing how stages play out using the identity compass as the measure of a stage, the AI technology to identify how the person's making meaning at what stage of awareness of their running, and how that links into the other developmentalists, and therefore where's the leverage point. We'll then integrate both of the quadrants and stages of awareness into the intention, awareness, choice, response model itself, and bring in stages into the intake process in and of itself. We then, at a later stage, only once every couple of years, are then going to run an integration, level 3, an integration level, where you're integrating everything you've learned through coaching, mentoring, and supervision. And so this is how you integrate it and get an embodied understanding of that. And so level 3 sits outside of this right now. We're still creating that. We won't be running that for another year or two. And so we're only going to be running one of those every probably 18 months to 2 years. And so there's the curriculum for the program, for the process that you're going to go through. Over to you in terms of questions, and then in the chat I'm going to put our offers up for you and what the program costs and how the options for you to pay for that. We're starting the next program, the first program here, on the 1st of June. That's only about 6 weeks' time. We already have 35 people booked on that program. Yeah, we already have 35 people already logged on there who've already paid for the program. And so we're looking for about another 15 to 20 people for the program, and we would consider it to be filled for our first program. And so questions from you, as I tap in there, the costs, the options for payment, etc. What are you curious about the program?
Let's ask a question for you that might help you ask some questions. Can you see there's a very definite point of difference available for you as a coach with this system that's not available anywhere else in the world, that points to a very pragmatically profound and really very basic process for you to engage in for real client transformation? Are you noticing that the difference? And if you are, what do you want to ask about it?
I have a very easy question about the logistics. So when are you planning on running it? As in what day and time?
Right.
Yeah, so we start on the 1st of June, which is a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to go Mondays and Wednesdays, 6 to 8 p.m.
For how many weeks?
It's going to go for 8 months.
Oh, right. Okay. So
that's the first 2 levels. So it runs consistently. It runs consistently for at the end of each module, we have a day in Sydney which if you can't make because it's an intensive day, we will be streaming live. So you can come in via video link, via Zoom link into the room. We've got a very good technological setup. We've already run a practitioner and a master practitioner very, very successfully using the methodology. We've got the equipment to make it work very, very easily. In fact, in our last practitioner course, we had almost half the people who were streaming in and half the people in the room, and it worked very, very successfully.
Preference is that you turn up in the room in Sydney, though, ideally.
Preference is you turn up in the room so we can actually work. But if you can't, there's that option. So it's a Saturday at the end of, like, I think the first one goes for 9 weeks. The end of that 9 weeks, there's a Saturday. That's the Saturday we run it in the room. On the Monday, we start the next module, and we go, and at the end of it, every module has a day in the room. So there are 4 levels or 4 modules. So there are 4 days of integration in the room, where you're actually coaching and gaining feedback and asking questions and getting live in the moment direction, mentoring, and supervision.
And so I know I'm away, for example, for 5 weeks in July, the first week of August. So is that too much of a stretch to be able to catch up on stuff that's recorded, or best to wait for the next intake? Like, what do you think about that?
So from my perspective, no, as long as you're keeping up with the curriculum, as long as you're keeping up with the work via recording and you're doing the practice. So even though you're away, do you have the capacity to watch the recording at some stage?
I could watch, maybe. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I could watch it, whether I practice.
If it's a holiday, Anna, the suggestion would be have the holiday.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, that's my preference. Okay.
So the intention is we're going to run this continuously, 8 months, 8 months, 8 months, 8 months. So catch the next one and enjoy your 5 weeks out.
Yeah, that's what
the next one will be commencing on the 30th of January 2023.
Yeah.
Which is the weekend after we finish this one. The other thing that you can do is to come back and revisit if you do miss some of it and catch it round next time. So you could, because you've done a fair bit of NLP, Anna, you could, because what you'd be missing is mostly in module 1, which we've covered quite a lot of through the NLP Prac and Master Prac. So you could come back and catch that round next time as well, would be an alternative.
Go on your holiday, Anna.
I don't think it'd make too much difference for you, Anna.
Go on your holiday, Anna. Good. Any other questions? Pumpkin time in 2 minutes.
Who will be presenting? Is it the 3 of you? I assume.
It is. Madeline will be doing module 1. I'll be doing module 2. Joseph will be doing some support for module 2 in there. Darren Stevens will also be joining us in module 2 as well, giving his expert understandings. Darren's a 5, and so very detailed, very broad understanding. Spent like years and years and years in this space working. So we're going to bring him in for some of that expert knowledge. Where then Madeline will be running module 3, and then Joseph and I will be running level 2. So between the 3 of us and bringing Darren Stevens in as well. And then, people like Bronwyn and people who are very close to, who've been doing a lot of work with us in the corporate space, if they choose to, will come and support.
They will.
We see.
Good.
I've got a question as well. If you're not an up and running coach yet, so I've just done the NLP practitioner at the beginning of this year. Is this program something that you would recommend, or is it something that you feel like you need a little bit more experience for in order to get that deeply into it? Like, how do you feel about that?
It's designed for coaches with no experience. If you've got experience, all the better. You'll be able to integrate the learnings, particularly the higher level learnings of the cognitive intentions, maybe a little faster, but it's designed to start from 0 and go to hero.
Okay, great. And then the follow-up question on that, like besides the 4 hours, of a week that the program's running for, how many hours a week do you think needs to be invested as a minimum to make sure that, you know, you really integrate it? And obviously that kind of depends from person to person, but just as like a bit of a ballpark, you know?
But around about another 4 hours.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It's just going to mean if you're not adding in that 4 hours, if you're not integrating that work, you're going to need to do it afterwards. And that's just going to take you longer to actually get to the level where you feel comfortable charging people for what it is you're doing with them. The more you can put into it as we go along, the better the output.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So that deal that is up there in the chat box is going to be available for another 7 days for you. Harriet will be sending out an email to everybody who registered, and we'll be sending out this video to everybody who registered in the next 2 days. If you've got questions that need answering, support@thecoachingroom.com.au, support@thecoachingroom.com.au. If you've got any unanswered questions, they'll get sent through to me. I'll answer them. If you'd like a phone conversation with me, email support@thecoachingroom.com.au and set that up. We hope that you've enjoyed going through our IPCP. We have a live community day in Sydney on the 29th of April. It's a Friday. We're running 3 workshops on that day. We'll start at about, I think it's about 1 or 1:30. 3 workshops we're running that will culminate. Self-actualization workshop. It's free of charge if you're part of our community, and even if you want to get into our community. Self-actualization workshop, cognitive intentions workshop, and then an IPCP full demonstration workshop showing you how to use the identity compass live with 1, maybe 2 clients. Yeah, and so we'll do the identity compass prior to doing the demonstrations on the day. Lovely. We hope to see you in the room. More information will come out about that as well to everybody who registered on this and people in the community. We'll see you soon. Hope to see you on Friday the 29th.
Thank you.
Thanks.